Hello everyone and welcome back to the GT Improvement course. Today we are going to be talking about everybody's favorite but not favorite subject, which is geometry. So we're going to start with squares and rectangles and triangles in this video, and then in the next video we'll do some circles, and then in other videos we'll do some word problems involving the formulas that you need to know for geometry. So let's start with squares and rectangles. Make sure you are taking notes because there are some formulas you need to write down. So for the AFCT, there are a few things you need to know. You need to know about how to find perimeter, area, surface area, and volume of these shapes. So let's start with perimeter. Perimeter, the formula is twice the length plus twice the width. So if this is the length and this is the width, in order to find the perimeter of a square or rectangle, you're going to multiply the length times 2 and the width times 2 and then add them together. Really, the other thing you can do is just add up all the sides. Okay. In terms of word problems, if a word problem talks about like fencing, what's going on around a shape, that is a good key that they're talking about perimeter. So if they're talking about fencing, usually they're talking about perimeter. So that's a good keyword to know for a word problem. The formula for area, you should absolutely know this one, is length times width. So length times width. It could also be width times length. It doesn't really matter as long as you're doing this one multiplied by this one. Okay? And when you're doing area, the unit that you always end up with is squared. So for example, if you had a rectangle and let's say the length was 3 feet and the width was 2 feet, to find the area of this rectangle, we would do 3 times 2, which is 6. And then since we're doing feet times feet, it would be feet squared. Now it's very important that you know that this squared does not apply to the number. It only applies to the unit of measure, okay? So if you see feet squared, yards squared, inches squared, they're talking about area. So yards squared, feet squared, inches squared, they're talking about area. All right, for volume. The formula for volume is length times width times height. Now, for perimeter and area, we're talking about shapes that are two-dimensional, just flat on a piece of paper. When we're talking about volume, we're talking about a three-dimensional object. So I'm going to do my best three-dimensional box here. Now, area is how much space is inside of an object. Perimeter is the length going around the outside of an object. Volume is how much space something takes up. So if you think about if this were a box and you were going to fill this box with water, how much volume would that box have? How much water would you be able to put in there? So the formula for volume is length times width times height. Now again, since this is multiplication, it doesn't matter what order you go as long as you're multiplying those three numbers. So let's say the length of this box is, let's do inches. Let's do 4 inches. Let's say the width, we'll make that part the width, is 2 inches. And we'll say the height, which is this part right here, we'll say the height is 5 inches. So we're going to multiply length times width times height. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So 4 times 2 times 5 equals 40. Oops, I don't know why I wrote 8. Equals 40. Now, because we multiplied inches times inches times inches, you remember here it was feet squared because we multiplied feet times feet. Since we're doing inches 3 times, it's going to be inches cubed. So if you see something in a word problem about like cubic feet or yards or inches, if you see something cubed, they are talking about volume. If they are talking about something squared, they are talking about area. Okay? Perimeter, there is no squared, there is no cubed, it would just be feet. So we didn't do an example for this one. If you were doing the perimeter of, let's say, this guy, let's say this is your backyard, and you are putting a fence around your backyard, we'll say this is 10 feet, and we'll say this is 30 feet. The perimeter of this yard, the amount of fencing that you're going to need, well, if this is 30, that means this is 30. And if this is 10, that means this is 10. So you can just add these all up, which would be 30 plus 30 is 60, plus 10 is 70, plus 10 is 80. The perimeter would be 80 feet. Okay? So you definitely need to know these 3 concepts dealing with squares and rectangles. All right, the next one you need to know is surface area. So for surface area, this is also talking about a 3-dimensional object, just like this one here. So I'm just going to use the same measurements actually. Okay, so let's say this is 4 inches and 2 inches and 5 inches. We'll just use the same. Surface area is the area of the surface of an object. So if you look at this box, I'm just going to draw the back sides kind of invisible here. If you look at this box, if you think about like a dice, there are 6 sides to a dice, right? Same with rectangles. There's going to be 6 sides to a rectangle. So there are 6 sides. What we need to do to figure out surface area is we need to find the area of each of these faces. They call them faces. So we have 2 sides, we have a top and a bottom, and we have a front and a back. We need to find the area of all of these faces, all 6, and then what we're going to do is just add them up. Okay? So let's start with this front face right here. I know the length of this face is 4. I know that the height of this box is 5, so if this is 5, that means that this is 5. So the area of this front face would be, the formula for area is length times width, so 4 times 5, which is 20, and this is going to be inches squared. Now this is the area for just this front face, but remember there's a front as well as a back, so we have 2 of them. So what we're going to do is simply multiply that by 2, so that gives us 40 inches squared. So that takes care of the front and back. So we've done 2 sides here. All right, let's do the sides. So this side right here, we know that the length right here is 2, and we know the height is 5. So to figure out the area of this side, it would be 2 times 5, which is 10 inches squared. And I have 2 of these sides. I have one here and I have one over here. So I'm going to multiply that by 2 as well, and that'll give me 20 inches squared. All right, so I've done 4 of my sides. The last is going to be the top and the bottom. I did the front and the back, did the sides, now I'm going to do the tops and the bottom. So this part is 5, right? This part is 5. That means that this part right here is going to be, well, the bottom here is 4, so this is going to be 4. And this piece here, well, this piece is 2, so that means that that piece is 2. So the top is going to be 4 inches by 2 inches. Same thing like the bottom, 4 inches by 2 inches. So the area of that face is going to be 8 inches squared. Multiply that by 2 because there's 2 sides just like that. And that's going to be 16 inches. Okay, now you have the area of all 6 of your faces. Now all we're gonna do is add these numbers together. So 40 plus 20 is 60, plus 16 is going to be 76 inches squared. You might encounter one of these kinds of problems on the AFCT, maybe, but that is how you need to that is how you calculate surface area if you needed to. Okay, so you just find the area of each face and then you add them all together. Make sure you have 6 faces that you are adding together. Okay, that's it for squares and rectangles. I think I'm going to break up these videos a little bit more. The next video is going to be on triangles and circles because those aren't as in depth as the quadrilaterals are. All right. Thanks and have a great day. Be sure to subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write something in the comment section below. Have a great day.